Hello, everyone. We are here today to talk about the food recalls that have happened in the USA and in Canada in the months of March and April. And it's been a somewhat strange and weird time for food recalls, especially in Canada. So let's get started. We'll start with the simple stuff. Let's start with the USDA and their recalls. I'm going to share my screen with you. By the way, my name is Debbie, and I do this report. I was doing it monthly, but I'm going to do it.
Share my screen with you.
Sorry.
By the way, my
name. I forgot to mute my phone. I have it on as a second monitor so that I can see if I make a mistake when I'm sharing my screen with you. So my name is Debbie, and I was doing this report monthly, but I'm going to do it every 2 months now. And other than that, I do cooking and tips and information to have healthy food and a healthy home. So let's look at the USDA recalls for food, which would be US recalls, because the USDA is in the US. Let me see if I can make that a bit bigger for you. Here we go. Can you see that? Is it big enough? There we go. So for the month of March, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and I didn't update. Oh yeah, 5. 5 recalls, and most of them were for meat that was imported without inspection, which means it came from outside and it's required to be inspected. And during the pandemic, everyone is struggling with manpower. So that's probably the reason why there's an increase in these kind of recalls. And in April's a little bit of a different picture. Here we have imported without inspection, foreign material in sausage, salmonella in a couple of products, and E. coli. So that's not too great. And then here we have a product that's not even allowed to be imported, and then hydraulic oil in beef and veal. Well, that must be because hydraulic oil is used in a lot of the equipment in food plants, and there was probably a leak into the product. So those are the recalls for the USDA. And if you have any questions as we go along, pop them in the chat. And if you'd like to tell me, who you are or where you're from, I'd love to chat with you. So now let's look at the FDA recalls, which would be, once again, recalls happening in the US for everything that is not a strictly meat or poultry product. So we'll go look at that. Excuse me. Yes, here we go. So now FDA I'll make it bigger again, for April. Let's just come down a bit so you get a nice big view here. So you can see the majority were for undeclared allergens. Now, different countries have different rules around what foods are considered to be an allergen and what foods are not. So this would be following the rules in the USA, and all of these foods, and here it's peanuts, hazelnuts, and gluten. All of these foods are foods that have to be declared on a package according to US law. And if they're not, then the food has to be recalled. So that's why all of these foods are recalled, because these are the types of foods, these are the companies, but these allergens were not declared on the label. Then we have some bacteria, pathogen bacteria that can make you sick, recalls. So we have 2 for mushrooms, listeria in mushrooms, enoki mushrooms in both cases. Now the companies are different. Here we have Guan's mushrooms, here we have golden metal mushrooms, but probably, I don't know for sure because this information is not available to the public at this point in time, but probably the source is the same, because generally when you have a type of recall where the product is the same and the reason for the recall is the same, very often it's because it all comes from one source and it gets moved to different companies in the food chain. And so you end up with a bunch of different companies being forced into a recall, but it's all because of one source. So that would be my guess for the enoki mushrooms. Jules Foods, I don't know the company. I didn't do any research on them. All I know is that all their products are being recalled because of salmonella, which is not good. And then here we have Velvet ice cream, and some of their ice cream is being recalled because of listeria. All of these are serious pathogens, but C. botulinum, which is Clostridium botulinum, which is botulism poisoning in black and chili beans, is very serious because this pathogen, it takes a very small amount of the toxin to kill you. So when I see botulism, like, that's very scary. Most likely, these are canned beans because botulism cannot exist in an environment with oxygen. So it wouldn't just be like raw, dry beans. It would have to be beans in a can or beans in some form of container where there is no oxygen. So that's scary. And then having a company having all their products recalled for salmonella says to me there might be a systemic problem in that company where they're having trouble following all the controls they're supposed to put in place in order to ensure that recalls don't happen, because for one company's entire product line to be recalled is quite rare. However, it could be a very small company with a very small product line. So I don't know that, but I'm just commenting here a little bit on this, just adding some kind of background. Okay, so this was April. Let's look at March for the FDA. I'll make it bigger again. Oh, I didn't look at the total. Yeah, so there was 16 recalls for the FDA in April. And let's look at March. So once again, we have the majority being allergen recalls for a bunch of different products. Now here we get into the bacteria recalls. So here, Listeria in queso fresco, that recall started in February, and we can see it's still going on in the beginning of March. So this company also, because they had a bunch of different products over a period of time with listeria in them, it tells me that they had a hard time tackling the listeria problem. And listeria is a very hard bacteria to get out of food plants. Once you get it in there, it can sometimes take several months or even months of investigation to figure out the source and get rid of it and make sure it's gone forever. So they're obviously struggling with this. Cheese, fresh cheese especially, can be a frequent target for listeria bacteria. So yeah. Salmonella in tahini, two different companies, but the same product, the same bacteria. The source may be the same, but I don't actually know that. Now here we have salmonella and listeria in sandwiches. So sandwiches are actually, it's the same company, are actually a high-risk food, because especially if they're made with meat and cheese and mayonnaise and egg. And so you have to have really good controls in place to make sure that your sandwiches are safe. The salmonella probably came from one of the ingredients, and the listeria probably found its way into the food plant and became resident in the food plant. Once again, I'm just making guesses based on my experience. I worked in food plants for 18 years now, and I was in food safety and food quality for much of that. And then I became a compliance auditor. So, and I'm just basing it on that experience. But it's scary to see two bacteria from the same company in their product. So once again, I have to wonder what's going on. And before I continue to Canada, I just want to say that food plants are an essential service during the pandemic. I will stop sharing. And they have to keep working. And even if employees get COVID, they have to keep working. And food plants have to, very often, production in food plants is very manual. There's a lot of people working close together, and they should have all their PPE, their masks, their shields, trying to distance as much as possible. But it's a really hard environment to try to put all the controls in place that would prevent COVID from spreading in a food plant. So the pandemic's been a very challenging time for food plants. And before we go on to Canada, I wanted to mention that we're also going to talk about the giveaway, which is going to happen on May 15th. I'm going to give you the word. So if you're here for the giveaway, I'm going to give you the word very soon. And that word, you will need to use it in a comment in this video. And then on May 15th, we'll pick a winner for the giveaway. So now let's talk about Canada very briefly. Oh, it's 1:11. Okay, so we'll talk about Canada very briefly, and then I'll explain what it is that happened in Canada that is really kind of scaring me. So in Canada, we had 28 recalls in March. That's huge. And a bunch were for allergens, but there was a couple for bacteria, and then quite a few for foreign material, and then a few for others. So let's look at this first one. Let's look at, so the allergen, it's the same as like in, I called it an allergen, but it's actually not an allergen. Cyanide poisoning in apricot kernels. That is scary, and I've never seen that before. Botulism in smoked trout. That's very scary. Glass in salsa, well, they're made with glass jars, so that happens occasionally. Insects in gummies, that is strange. Stones can happen, especially when you've got figs, because they're a fruit, and fruits can have stones in them. Plastic and metal in the salad kit, probably something in the plant got in there. Now, this is another weird one. Leucomalachte green in fish. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to talk about the cyanide poisoning in a minute. And here we have more cyanide poisoning. Look, tons of cyanide poisoning happening. And then in April, once again, we have the cyanide poisoning continuing, and we have one bacteria, and then we have a few other things. So it's not been a pretty picture for recalls in Canada. And in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about cyanide poisoning in apricot kernels and the Leucomalachte green. But before I do that, let's talk about the giveaway. So the rules are you need to live in continental USA or Canada. You need to be over 18. You need to be publicly subscribed to my channel. And you need to leave a comment in the comment section after the video or now with the word apricot. Now you want to say something like, I love apricots, or I don't like apricots, but you need to use it in a full sentence. So the secret word is apricot, and everybody who puts a comment in this video with the word apricot will be entered into the draw that's going to happen on May 15th. So I hope we're going to have a fun winner, and that's how it works. If you want to know what the prizes are, then go back and look at my video on my YouTube birthday, which I did a couple of weeks ago, and it will show you what the prizes are. And the reason why I'm doing 2 giveaways in May, this is the first one, and there will be one more, is because it's my 1-year birthday. So May 2020 is when I started my YouTube channel. And so to thank everyone, I wanted to share a birthday present with you all. So let's just talk briefly about cyanide poisoning and Leucomalachte green. What are they, and why are we having recalls for them? So cyanide is a poison, and it can kill you. And apricot kernels have been recalled. As you saw, there's a lot of recalls for cyanide poisoning in apricot kernels in Canada. But why? Well, the kernel inside the pit contains amygdalin. And when you ingest it, that amygdalin is changed into cyanide in your body. So why are people eating apricot kernels? Well, for some people, they've become the new superfood. There is research suggesting, according to Medical News Today, and the link is down below, there is research suggesting that the amygdalin in apricot kernels, or some of the substances in apricot kernels, may help your body fight cancer, may help detoxify your body. But the research is not conclusive yet. It's ongoing, and nobody can say for sure whether this is true or not. There are also several cultures in the world where they believe apricot kernels to be healthy, and they will eat them. in small doses. Now, so that brings up the question. So can you eat a few apricot kernels or a lot? Are you going to die if you eat just one? No, the research I did seems to show that just one is not going to kill you. In the European Food Safety Authority, they say 3 kernels per day could be a risk, but below 3, you'll be fine. The medical news today said eating 50 to 60 kernels per day could lead to lethal poisoning. So you can see that there's a real range between a few kernels maybe making you sick to more kernels possibly killing you. So it's very dose dependent. Now, I'm not suggesting you eat apricot kernels, and I'm not suggesting you don't. I didn't do enough research to have an opinion. Me personally, I would not eat them. I wouldn't want to take the risk, but I'm not giving you any suggestions around that. I'm just presenting briefly some of the information I found on this and why were people eating apricot kernels in the first place. Like, I couldn't even figure that out because I was brought up to believe that apricot kernels were poisonous and you don't eat them. So what happens is in Canada, we've had 2 deaths so far in the last recent past, one in 2005 and one in 2009 from people eating apricot kernels. So Canada set a limit of 20 parts per million, which is a very small limit, of extractable cyanide in apricot kernels. And so the products that you saw had more than that 20 ppm limit, and that's why they're being recalled. And in Canada, the government has decided that with this limit of 20 ppm, it would be safe to eat a few apricot kernels. But if the product has more than 20 ppm, you don't know what you're doing. It's like Russian roulette because you don't know how much amygdalin that could turn into cyanide is in the product. So that's the reason for the apricot kernels being recalled in Canada. Now, why is leucomalachite green being recalled? Well, it's a fungicide that's used in fish farms to reduce the amount of fungus that's living on the fish in the farms. But so they put it into the water, it's absorbed by the fish, and there are residues in the tissues. Malachite green is suspected to be mutagenic, which means it can cause changes to your genetic material. So for that reason, it's not allowed to be used in fish farms in the USA, in Canada, and in the European Union. But the fish that we saw being recalled had leucomalachite green in it, and so that's why it was being recalled. So that fish was probably produced in an area where oh, hello. Hi, As You Desire. Thank you for watching. I will put you, so As You Desire has a cooking channel and on YouTube. Check them out. They have very nice recipes and we're friends. So thank you for stopping by. And I'll put a link to their channel in the video description. So please check out their recipes. The fish was probably produced in an area where leucomalachite green is allowed and then imported into the USA or Canada. I don't remember which country it was. I think it was Canada. So that's the recall situation. And to me, it kind of indicates, because there has been an increase in the number of recalls compared to January to now, that the food plants and all the inspectors and the whole process that we have in North America to ensure that our food is safe is really struggling with the problems that the pandemic imposes on them. But we will see how things look in 2 months in June. I want to thank everybody who listened to this now or who is going to listen to this later. And I really appreciate you tuning in. And I hope this information is helpful. And if it is, let me know. And remember the word apricot, you got to use it in a comment, in a whole phrase, in a sentence, if you want to be part of my giveaway. Unfortunately, my giveaway is only for continental USA and Canada for now. So if you like this video, then give me a like, subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. And also let me know if you find this information helpful. I hope everybody has a good day. I will have more recipes coming for you. So take care. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for stopping by, whether you're stopping by now or later. And As You Desire, thank you so much. Bye, everyone. I will be seeing you soon.